Hi everyone, this is Marie Wheeler with Art by Marie. I thought I'd get on and show everyone what are some of my favorite things. This is just a few that I use in every day in doing my art pieces. One of the first things that I have is my Stay Wet palette. I have a small one that I've had for, goodness, 20 years I'd say. And if you open, a lot of people just put their paints on maybe paper plate or whatever, and then it dries and you got to get rid of it. But this comes with a sponge, and you wet the sponge, then you put a piece of, you can do wax paper even if you want to, but I buy the palette paper. And then once you put your paint on it, you can put the lid on it and and seal it tight. And you can have this for quite a long time. It'll keep your paint from drying out. Let's see here, and the palette paper that it comes with, you can use it more than once, and I did not realize that, but they're little sheets. And it says on here, on the hint of it, it says that the Stay Wet acrylic paper is reusable. You simply wash off the paint, scrubbing it, and then you can turn it over and use the other side. Mine is always so used, I throw it in the trash. So that's one of the things. I've used this a long time. The reason why I have a small one is 20 years ago when I started painting, I painted mainly on wood. I did folk art type thing. A lot of times would use the small deco art paint or whatever. And so I didn't have to mix a lot. I still would put it on here and I'd mix it on palette paper, but I didn't have to have a lot of different colors, and then I would use them directly on the tube. So this was fine. I have a newer one. Actually, I have a couple different ones, but I just got this new one that came with, it's a red one. It came with a bigger, I have a blue one, and you have to buy that the sponge separately, but it's huge. It has the same type of thing, and what I do is I have this little spritzer that I got from Hobby Lobby. It's like $10, then you use your coupon, but it's a very fine, very fine, and so a lot of times I'll spray that. I'll even use it to spray my canvas to get the drips down. So that's one of my favorite things from Hobby Lobby. There's other versions of it. I just like the way it does the misting. So when you're done with your paint for the day, you just seal it really tight, and it has a little burp. You know, like, you can hear it go. It has a little burp sound, just like Tupperware. So we have that, and then I use palette paper. There's like white palette paper, but I like to use the gray. The reason why I use the gray is because I use a value scale. And this, if you look at the value scale, a value scale is the colors of white to black and gray all in between. And this is a mid value 5 value. So when I mix paint, I know the value of what I'm starting with, and I would like to start with a mid value. So I use this so I can tell when I'm mixing colors, like I mixed a blue, what is the value of it. Because when you paint, you want different values of the color so that you can have depth. So I use this to mix it. I have different mediums that I use. One of my favorite is a gloss gel. It kind of comes in matte and gloss. One, I use it to mix my paints. If in here, I'll open the lid back up again. But when I mix my paints, it makes it thicker. Acrylic paint, it's not like oil at all. It doesn't have the same thick consistency, but this helps it. It also can be used as, instead of using Mod Podge, because Mod Podge is really for when you're doing not so fine canvas work. It's very sticky and it doesn't hold up. So this also can be used, like if I paint on paper and I want watercolor paper and I want to put it on a piece of canvas or a piece of wood, I'll use this to put it on the back, just like Mod Podge, and then put it on the top, and then I'll use a brayer to rub it down, like on my hands moving, then rub it down to get the excess off, or my elbows on that thing. And then I also use the retarder. A retarder is something I used years ago when I used the little, these little little craft paints. And it helps it to slow the process down of it drying. Acrylic paint dries really fast, so you want to extend that. You can use a retarder. You also can put it in when you mix your paints up. You could put a little couple drops in it. Just don't use too much, and it could help it to not dry so fast. So those are the two mediums I use. There's another medium that I like to use, and it is the gesso. And if you could see, I got these 2 big bottles, and the prices are amazing. I got them last year. They were on clearance. Somebody posted on either Facebook or Instagram that they were having a markdown. Once in a while, go to Hobby Lobby in the section and look for these red tags, because this is $32. I got it for $8.99, and I wish I would have bought them all up. But this one's super heavy gesso. At the beginning, when I started painting a couple years, I got some of the heavy gesso, and I use it on my backgrounds a lot of times for my barns. Hello. But in my bird's nest. But I just really like it. So what you do is you'll, there we go. You can put it on, and you can do whatever kind of technique you want to use. But I even use it not just for my backgrounds, but for, you can mix paint in it. And then once it starts to dry a little bit, it'll get tacky, and you can lift it up and get little divots out of it. So I'm not sure what I'm going to do with this yet, but I already started on a couple of them. I'll put that over here, clean it up. As you see, I have two water jars right here. The reason why I have two is one is to clean my brush off, which I usually use a small, and the other one is I'll take my brush and I'll get it wet, just the tip of it. So I don't want really dirty water in my clean brush. So I like to use two of them. I'm going to put this lid on so I won't accidentally get my elbow in it. And I use watercolor paper. These were marked down too, but I have different sizes. What I like to use them for is I'll do a practice on here. So I have a book of some different practices, and if I like it, I will make it bigger. And I'll be able to play with the different colors. And also too, sometimes I take it and I will put it on a piece of wood panel, and then I'll use the gloss gel to seal it, just like Mod Podge. If I decide I want to give it to somebody or sell it to somebody. Some of my favorite tools, these are just a few I have a lot, are the palette knives or painting knives. They're different brands, different companies. Some last better than others. I have some favorite ones that I like to use. This one I use for my flowers a lot and for my hydrangeas. This one I like to use for my leaves. I'm doing one right now. I'll bring it out here. I posted a little bit on it, but this is one that I'm using. I did my leaves with. I just like the way it's easier for me to get in. One of the other things that I like to use, and I think is super important, and I'm getting happier and happier with it, is my color wheel. My color wheel, if you see, I have greens, and then in the background I have orange. So I'm using different shades of greens, and the complementary color is an orange. So that's what I put on the back. It helps the green to pop out. And what I like the color wheel for is because one of my paintings that I have, I like to use harmonious a lot in my paintings. That means harmonious means are colors that are joined next to each other. And if you will go through your paints and you'll take maybe some of your yellows you have, your primary colors, reds and blues, you'll have different shade, your different companies that make it, different blues. Some blues maybe have more yellow in it, some may have red, or some may have green. If you lay them out, those three, bunch all your reds, all your blues, and all your yellows, and you'll mix up, do a red and a yellow and get an orange on each of them, and see, you'll have different kinds of orange. And then do a tint, tone, and shade. Tint means add a little white to it. Tone means add a little gray to it. Shade means add a little black to it. And see what you get on all of them. And then maybe try painting using just harmonious colors. And maybe the background be one of the opposite, one of the complementary, thank you, complementary colors to make these pop. So I love using them. I'm starting to use it more and more. There's two sides of it. This shows the values, and this one shows tint tones, and it shows complementary split. But study a little bit and use it. We use it when we decorate it. Why not? We should use it when we're doing our artwork. Another thing that I really like, I have 3 books that I go to a lot. They are Patty Malika. She has probably, I don't know, 4 or 6, plus she has videos out. I used to paint super tight, and I still do, but I'm trying to learn how to paint looser. This is one of the books. This is her color theory book. I bought some of her videos. I've been studying and practicing. The other one is Carol Marine. This one's great. It's daily painting. She has a daily painting where she sells and other artists sell their work. I don't think it's called daily painting. I apologize. But she's very loose. I love following and practicing with her work. Another thing that I have, because I do have a big I do have a big easel over here, but I have this little teeny easel. It's a bamboo. I got it online at in Amazon. Not very much. I think it was like $10. But it has where you can lower it or higher it. It's when I'm sitting here and I still use my brushes and I paint farther, but I can put the piece on here instead of directly on the table, and I can use it. Gives me the depth of it coming out instead of flat. Some of what did I see that all my different, I talked about those already. My brushes, I have a lot. So I'm just going to tell you what I'm using right now because it's almost embarrassing how much I have. But I've collected them over the years, and I tend to buy more and more expensive ones. So that's why I'm careful with how I set my brushes in the water. I don't let them sit there. I have, let's see here, Catalyst. Princeton Catalyst brushes. They're polytip brushes. There's two different. There's what's called the flat, which means they're longer, and then there's the bright, which they're shorter. And if you look, they're stiffer brushes. And when I paint my backgrounds in that, I'll tend to use the softer synthetic brushes. I like them softer as I'm doing my background grounding color, like I did the orange. So these are my favorite. I like long handle ones because it makes you to hold it farther back. And if you take a pencil and you go like this, you're loose. If you take it and you hold it farther back, you're tight. If you hold it back like this, you're loose and you'll have a looser painting. So, and I like big brushes. I have a lot of big brushes over there. Anything else? Oh, I have a little dryer. May not be a big deal, but it is to me. Sometimes I need to, especially I'm doing smaller pieces. It's not a regular dryer. It's more like a heat gun, but it's more controlled than the hot heat guns. You can get these at Michael's. It has a little rest for you to sit on. You see that? So Michael's has them for sure. That's where I think I got that one. Anything else? Well, when I was talking about the gel, I don't know if I mentioned that when I put it I use golden paints a lot, and I still have some of the Liquitex, more of the student grade. Sometimes I'll use that on some of my wood pieces that are smaller than that. But even if you add this to the student grade, or you add the gel medium as a thickener to more of the craft paint, even though the pigment's not as great, it'll give it a thicker, so you can work with it better. There's so many other different mediums you can use, but these are my favorite. I have a modeling paste that I use a lot of times on the canvases also. I've done this. I'll use a modeling paste. I think that is it. This that I painted on, I was going to show you. This is a wood, cradle wood that I buy. Sometimes I'll use on this side and paint on it, but when I paint on this, we frame them now. My husband does the framing in-house, so it'll frame with just a little, I did a thing on framing one time, with just a little gap in between. I'll paint my sides, but I like this. You get a totally different movement when you're painting on wood, and a lot of times I like to do this when I'm doing a thickness with my palette knife. When I'm painting on canvas, a lot of times I'll use brushes more than my palette knife. But these are some of the things. I don't know if there's anything else I have right here. I do have a lot of other stuff I could show you, but these are my basic things that I go to every day. I hope this helps. If I will put a link on this video on the bottom in the comments or whatever, it has a breakdown of all the different mediums and what they do, and it's a link to I can't remember, Stick Black, I believe, but it'll show you even more extensive how you use these mediums. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments. I'll be glad to get back with you. Thank you.